Okay, I'm going to show you start on my monochromatic self-portrait here. I took a photo of myself. Now, I want you to have one that's got something about you're conveying personally, some interest, some part of your personality, something, okay? Then posterize it on that website that I gave you in the details on the assignment. Notice I made a grid here of my photograph once I printed it out in black and white, okay? And now I've taken my 14 by 17 piece of, I've used a piece of canvas paper here. It's primed like an acrylic canvas, a little lightly anyway. And you may also use, if you're going to use watercolors, which are acceptable for this, you can use watercolor paper. You need to make the approximate size of the piece should be somewhere between 14 by 17 to 15 by 15 if it's a square type image, okay? And remember, you can do it vertically or horizontally. Either one is fine, okay? All right. I've gridded it out. Now notice I've only gridded just my image, not to the edge of the white paper, all right? Half, 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 half of that, etc., etc., okay? So get good at math. And I've also, you may decide to make yourself sort of a value or color key here. With, say there's, I think there's only about 5 different kinds of values here. I've got white, I've got the next very lightest one here, I've got a medium, I've got a medium light, and I've got a very dark gray, okay? So I'm going to use my white as one value and my very dark, almost black as another. And then I'm going to make 2, 3, 4, 5, and you may decide to go ahead and sort of number your squares with the various colors. That way you can kind of follow along and always kind of match it. Remember again, watercolor base drives, they tend to drive lighter or darker. So you gotta, this is practicing and mixing and color matching, okay? You can see here on my piece, I'm not gonna do that, that I've outlined closely the shapes. Once you've posterized your image, you should have big areas of shape, okay? And if the face freaks you out, just concentrate what's inside each square, okay? We talked about the fear of portraits there. And I've kind of lightly outlined my shapes in these 2 squares down here at the bottom. I'm going to start painting now. I'm going to use my very darkest, I've chosen for my color, my one color. It can be any color. It could be deep burgundy red. It could be day glow orange. It could be right, you know, and you can, whatever color it is, but you can only use that one, okay? And I chose to use a pre-mixed paint, a pre-mixed acrylic paint, okay? And that way, it's always going to be this color. Okay, and I only have to worry about matching it, getting it lighter or darker, getting to match it all the way across. For example, what I mean is this color has to match this color and this color and this color, all of the same space, okay? So you may decide you may want to go ahead and draw your entire piece first rather than going square by square. But I'm not going to do that for demo purposes. So I'm going to paint my darkest value here of this sweater that's in my image. And I'm not going to make it pure black. I'm going to give it a little, there, I'm going to go that color. And then I'm just going to paint now. I know I'm going to be able to go over here a little bit because I know it's going to be black on this side here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And around here, make sure I'm in the camera here. This is all. And if you make a mistake, it's no problem. That's one nice thing about acrylics, as opposed to watercolors, is that you can always go over it again and again and again until you get it covered up or erased out or whatever with other paints, okay? I'm going to get a smaller brush briefly. You can add your slow dry medium to the acrylic paint to keep it from drying so fast. I'm going to go ahead and get that nice and clean there. Okay. And I'm going to go and go over the edge of the outside of the page. That's fine, because we're going to, if you're going to ever mat these, you're going to be covering up that raw edge. That's fine. It does not bother me. And I'm going to go ahead and finish painting my entire flat. Notice it's just flat. There's no gradations. There's no difference in value or anything like that. Okay. That's the only spot on this square here that is that dark black. Except for one little spot right up here at the top that I've marked out. And I'm going to go ahead and paint that real quick right here. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to paint that medium kind of color next to it, which is going here, which is here, that sort of medium dark there. All right. So I'm going to add a little bit more of my light blue to this. Boy, that is ugly, but I don't care. That's fine. That's what it is. A little bit more, maybe. I kind of want to bring it up a little bit more. There we go. Make sure you mix plenty, all right? And then I'm going to paint this section here. And you may decide you may want to get some little bottles and pre-mix all of your different values, and that way you can seal them up again and reuse them. I've seen students do that too. That's very smart. I'm going to go ahead and paint this little slightly lighter value here next to it. Say this is this color here. This value is this color here. I think I might even bring that up a little bit more. Maybe I'll make that close to my base color. There we go. And I'll show you why I did that, because I want to be able to drag. I've got a little something hint of that right here. And I want to be able to drag, let me see, let's get this painted in here. And over here. You can go over the edge if you know that's going to be, I know that's going to be mostly. Okay. Now if you need to, oh, and you may end up too having to do 2 coats. Once it thoroughly is dry, you don't want to have those streaky things. You want that to be just right. You want that to be completely flat. So you'll have to go back in and paint. Oh, I'll have to, if I was letting this dry thoroughly here, I would have to go back in and paint it a second coat. There we go. Again, I paint it all the way up to the top there. Okay. But what I'm doing to show you here, I'm waiting for this to dry just a bit more. Let's go ahead and take this up off the top here. Not thoroughly dry yet. I'm going to finish this little section here. A little bit more over here. Good, okay. And I've got a little bit over here. this medium gray right here. And I've got this same lighter gray here. But I'm not going to fool with that right now. I got this here. You see how this is starting to dry slightly unevenly here? You don't want that. You do want to go ahead and let it dry thoroughly and then go over it again. That's why I recommend acrylic paints, even if you go with the craft paints, which are super inexpensive. And they can be used a lot of different ways in a lot of different other projects too. That looks pretty dry. Now I want to leave a little bit of a feathered edge there. Oops, that's the wrong color. Dopey. There we go. Let's go back in. Get that changed up. Now I'm going to clean that out again. Use my smaller brush here. And leave a little bit of a stippled edge here because my image tends to have little dots of extraneous color in some areas. And there's some dots here. And there's a few dots over here. Sort of like pointillism. Little dots of color for that irregular edge. Here, I'll put that a little so you can see a little bit more of what I'm looking for here. Take that out, make it clean. A little bit of a feathered edge here, not blended, but just a feathered finish, and a little bit less, and a little bit of the dotting here. Let me put it a little bit cleaner here, so you can see it. I'm trying to I'm sort of overemphasizing it so you guys can see it on the video. See, I'm leaving that sort of deckled edge there because my photograph has sort of a deckled, sort of a dotted edge there. You may take out and leave as much of that as you feel is warranted, but I do want you to give it some visual interest, okay? So that's one thing I'm trying to convey to you guys, that, you know, I want this to have some sort of meaning besides just a basic photograph of you, although that's perfectly fine. Again, paint some of those out. And like I said, what's nice is you can always take out what you don't want, reduce the amount of it. There we go, that's a little better. And go ahead and paint all the way. There you go. Now see, I've got some areas here that didn't get fully covered. I've got a few white spots going on here. So I'm going to dab right over the top of those and get rid of those little white spots especially, okay? These look very flat and even, okay? That's going to dry a little darker. Anyway, there we go. That's the basic thing, and then I'll move on to the next square and the next and the next and the next. You may decide, if you can do it, you can do it without the grid, but I don't recommend it, only because it needs to look very sort of structured, and it is sort of got these flat shapes that you're working on. And so look at the shapes. If you're freaked out by the face, just concentrate. Make it just, this isn't a lip anymore. It's just a shape with a little bit of a white highlight there and a few dots of lighter color inside the shape of medium dark value. Does that make sense? That's what this is about. All right, so tell me about something about yourself. I recommend these, and if you need to mix up a batch, get yourself several different little jars with lids on them and pre-mix all your paints. Determine how many values you need, and you're good to go. Good luck.